Saving money can be hard, especially when there are so many other things you'd rather spend your money on. Statistics show that 2 out of 3 people barely have any money at all in savings, and about 45% of adults are unable to save money each year. So clearly, putting money aside in savings can be a hard task. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips you can implement right now. 5 tips that will help you drastically improve your savings irrespective of how much money you make. When it comes to savings, you have to remember that it is not entirely dependent on how much money you make, but how much of that money you're able to keep. So let's get straight into these tips. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Antwiwaa if you are new here, and if you are returning, what's up my G? Welcome back to another video. On this channel, I share tips on personal finance, personal growth, and vlogs on how I'm navigating and figuring life as a young adult. If that's something that you're interested in, you definitely want to consider subscribing if you end up enjoying this video. But without wasting any more time, let's get straight into these tips. The first tip is to make sure that you're picking quality over cheap or inferior items. And usually when we think quality, we are thinking the most expensive item among the bunch, which is not always the case. But when it comes to spending a little bit extra money to acquire something that is of good quality, as opposed to just using very little amount of money to buy something that is cheaper, of less quality, and won't stand the test of time, you are always better off buying something that is slightly expensive, but most importantly of higher quality, as that will last longer, and in the long term you're saving a lot more money than you would if you're buying something that is of less quality and you have to keep replacing it every other month. A typical example is, say, buying a shirt that is of good quality and wearing it or owning it for years, and buying a t-shirt of not so great quality and having to replace it every 2 to 3 months. You realize that if you're adding up all the monies that it takes to replace that t-shirt every 3 or 4 months and comparing that amount to a one-time purchase of a t-shirt that you can have for a year or 2, it is a better use of your money, and you end up saving a lot more money in the long run, as there's no need for you to keep replacing that t-shirt over and over again. My second tip is to make sure that you're saving your money the moment your income hits your bank account. That means that you're either automating your savings, or you're making sure that the moment you get an income, you immediately take whatever percentage you have decided to put into savings, do that and forget about it. And something that also worked for me is that when I make it very hard to reach my savings, I realize that once there are so many steps, once you do not have an ATM card, for example, and you have to get up, go to the banking hall, queue and withdraw your money, it makes it a little bit difficult for you to just go into your savings account and take money as at when you please. And that will definitely allow your savings to flourish a lot more when it is out of your reach. Then the next tip is to review your expenditure. So what this means is that you sit down and take inventory of how you've been spending your money for the last 2-3 months, or maybe even the last month. And if you do this, you realize exactly what your money is going into, and by doing that, you're able to know exactly what you want to cut down on, what are your true needs, and what you're just blowing your money on. And I recommend that you do this every 2 to 3 months in order to have a proper overview of what your money is going into. Sometimes we get used to living our life a certain way and spending money on things that are not entirely necessary for our survival, to the detriment of our savings. So if you're able to do this, and just by looking at it and taking receipts and looking at where your money has gone into, you can decide what things you need to cut back on in order to save more money, or what lifestyle changes you need to implement if your goal is to save more money. At the end of this video, I have a video sharing 10 things I have stopped spending my money on, 10 things that you can also cut down spending money on if your goal is to save more money. Tip number 4 may be a bit extreme, but if you're really bent on cutting down your expenses in order to save more money, irrespective of how much money you're making every single month, my advice for you, or my tip for you, will be to try a no spending ban for a period of time. So that could be for a month, for 2 weeks, for a week, if you want to just test the waters. And that may look like you're not spending any money on clothes for a month, for example, or you're not spending any money on eating out for another month. And you can do this with skincare, with clothes, with eating out, with whatever you think is taking a lot of your money. So for me, that could be Uber or taxis, among other things. If you're able to put a ban on things that are really draining your money, you realize that for that period of time, say if you're doing it for a month, for that month you have extra cash that is going to go into savings and is going to drastically improve your savings. My next tip is to save what you can, and I know that a good number of us like to follow the 80-20 rule, which is out of the money that we make, 80% goes into living our lives and 20% of that money goes strictly into saving. I know that for some people, based on how much you're earning or based on the situations that are happening in your life right now, you may not be able to strictly follow the 80-20 rule, but that doesn't also mean that you should not save at all. I think that no matter what stage you are in life, it is very necessary that you save whatever amount you can, whether it be $20 every other month or even $5 every other month. If that is what you can truly afford to put aside in savings, go ahead and do it. It is better than not putting any money at all in savings. By the end of the year, you still have some money in savings that can be useful to you in the future, and that is definitely better than no money in the bank at the end of the year. If you found this video helpful, you definitely want to check out this video where I share 10 things I'm no longer spending my money on, and hopefully it inspires you to cut down your expenses if your goal is to save more money in the long run. And I also want you to know that putting money aside in savings is not where it ends. Make sure that you're also letting that money make money for you in the long run. So thank you very much for watching this video. I will see you over in this one. Peace out.
Tonight we're running on the right track.